a little out of tune. Let me tune this bad boy. A440. Oh, you guys have been chatting over at Discord without me? That's fine. I'm never over there. Yeah, we got rain too. We walked to Starbucks in the mist. I would say it wasn't raining, it was misting. But on my app, my weather app, it said partly cloudy. I'm like, it's fully cloudy. And I couldn't see any blue. So I'm partly cloudy does not, that means like some blue, some white, right? It's just ridiculous. Hey, Sam was first. Let me see. I gotta. And then Jan, you're here. Good to see you, Bruce. Thanks for the text earlier, Bob. Let's see, and then Holly, I see. So we got some regulars in here. We're just gonna talk about soloing. I've got to take Beth to the airport here in a little bit. So. She's going to see Emma, our daughter. And so I was thinking about Paul David's last lesson where he talked about, just finding a G triad. I should do this in G. But I did it in A. I can easily modulate down to G. Let me just take these, select all, go down 2.5 steps. And one of the things he talked about was something that we talked about quite a while ago, and that was finding a triad. And in this case, we're in the key of G. Find the G triad anywhere on the neck. So you're finding the root, third, and fifth, and it doesn't have to be in that order. Excuse me. And then from there, if you find the fifth, the sixth is a whole step up. If you find the root, the second is a whole step up, and you find the third, the fourth is a half step up. And those are all really good notes too, to go to and to come back down or whatever. Like for example, if you visualize this G major, if you visualize that G major power chord, bar chord, okay, so we have 3, 5, 5, 4, 3, 3. That's basically our G power chord. Well, we've got, in consecutive strings, we have 3 different triads there. We have the E-shaped triad right there. We have the fifth, the root, and the third. We have the root, third, fifth right there. Okay. And that is on these 2 strings, or these 3 strings. And in the top 3 strings, you have the third, the fifth, and the root. So you have 3 different triad shapes that you can do that 6th, 4th, and 2nd addition to. So it's like, do that with me right now. So we're going to take the fifth of the G chord, and we're going to hammer on the 6th and pull it off like that. Okay, and just visualize this chord right here when you do that. And then we go to the root, and we same thing. It's a whole step up from the root to get to the next diatonic note. And again, if we're in the key of G, the next diatonic note from the third is going to be 4th fret to the 5th fret. So B to C. So I could just do a solo on that, but I can continue up. I got the 3rd and 4th here. I've got the 5th and 6th again. And I got the root and 2nd. Oh, congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you, Becker, for helping to repopulate the world. I forget where you are. Where are you based? Number 4. That's awesome. We stopped at 3. Beth got so sick with number 3. We would have had 4, but she got so sick with the third one that she didn't want to do that again. I think it was because the third one was a girl and she just was having estrogen overdose, is my guess. Have a cigar, exactly. I don't have a cigar, but I have a Sharpie. I'm smoking a Sharpie for Becker. Oh, the guitar is way too low. Okay, all right. I was worried that everything was too loud. All right. Let me see what it sounds like with the track. Hold on a second. Yeah, but Holly, who's going to make my Starbucks? If everybody in the world is a musician, we'd all die. We'd all die. Oh, you're tall. Wow. Oh, Netherlands. Wow, that's awesome. All giants. That's awesome, man. So well, trust me, most baristas are either musicians or sociology majors. So, yeah, there'll probably be too many baristas. We'll be all high on coffee and able to play guitar, and I would be starving to death because everybody would be me. And that would be a horrible world. What Jan said. Whatever that means. Okay, so you can see I literally took that triad, those triad shapes, and I basically created a scale, a 6-note scale. So it's not a diatonic scale, which would be 7 notes, and it's not a pentatonic scale, which is 5 notes. And don't worry, there won't be a quiz on this. Everybody take a celebratory sip. When I use all this jargon, my goal is not to confuse you or to sound like an elitist snob. But my wife is a teacher and she has to sit through some of the most pretentious, say nothing, word salad meetings about the, pedagogy of the proprietary. So I can't even begin to fake talk like this. She can do it. But oh, the guitar volume's still low or no? I changed it. So so we're going to do some tricks with those notes, and the cool thing is it's kind of based on the caged method. And just a reminder what the caged method is. Okay, so if you've never heard that term before, and to be honest, I didn't hear it until a few years ago. Well, it's probably been more than a few. It's probably been 15 years. But I taught the caged method without knowing that it was called the caged method. When I heard people reference, I'm like, what are they talking about? And then I went like, oh my gosh, I've been teaching it all my entire teaching career. But it's basically taking the 5 major chords that are super duper easy to make generally on the guitar, the C chord, okay, the A chord, the G chord, the E chord, and the D chord, and turning them into a way of seeing the fretboard so that you can solo and move around the fretboard and not only solo but play rhythm. By far I use the caged method to come up with rhythm ideas, by far, like 99% of the time compared to soloing. Don't really get asked to solo that much. It's not I have to keep those chops up when I do, but for the most part, oh good, okay, thank you. Oh, overall volume is a bit low. Well, that's weird because this thing is all the way up. Oh wait, let's see. Properties, advanced audio properties. Do I dare touch this? I don't see. That's weird because this is actually all the way up, and it's coming from that. I believe it's coming from the microphone. I mean, from the camera. Let's see. What are the other options here? Properties. Yeah. No, that's not. There's nothing changed there. Well, yeah, I've got it as loud as it'll go, but you're right. I'm not pushing the red at all. Woo! There I did, but so, but the cool thing is if you learn the cage method. So again, what that would imply is, and we're in the key of G. But it would basically, the idea is that the shapes go in the order of the word caged up the fretboard. So if we start on C, that C looks like a C shape. That's a C shape, it's a C chord, same thing. This C looks like an A, C-A, K, okay? This C looks like a G, it's the next C up the fretboard. So we have CAG, and then here we have an E form, see that looks like an E chord, but it's a C chord, and that's cage. And then here's the next C chord right here, and it looks like a D chord. And so that's the caged method, all right? It doesn't matter what letter you start on, you're still gonna continue to spell out the word in the order C-A-G-E-D. So if we start on the G shape, which is the key we're in now, with G, after G in the word caged is E. Well, here's the shape we're concentrating on right now. And then D is here, and then C is here, and then the A shape is here, and then back to G shape, okay? And so it's a way to visualize the fretboard and quickly go from like open G to E form G to D form and then up to C and then up to the A form and back to the G form. Okay, so good morning, Quail. What's going on? Hey, Dr. Zane, what's going on? Yeah, I know, right? I need to get Starbucks to totally sponsor me. Yeah, brought to you by, totally 100% brought to you by Starbucks. If I didn't get my coffee in the morning, there would be nothing to bring to you. Bring to you, brought to you by. Okay, so what I did was I took that G major chord that looks like an E, it's an E form, G bar chord here. It's one of the first bar chords we learned probably. The F chord, everybody has struggles with the F chord, it's particular on acoustic instruments, acoustic guitar. 12 string with high action, playing an F chord is like, it hurts me, so don't think you're alone on this. But you can, if you look at the notes we have here, I already wrote it out. It was fret-wise, it's 3, 5, 5, 4, 3, 3, and then that's pitch-wise, or to analyze it, it's a root 5, root 3, 5, root. So we have 3 roots. We have, I'm not even looking at the bottom note at this point. I'm looking at the triad shapes, which we have. This triad shape here, play this with me, 5, 5, 4 on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, okay? You got that? All right, let's move to this triad, okay? And it's 5, 5, 4, 3 on the 4th fret, or 4th string, sorry, 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, and then top 3 strings, it would be 4, 4, 3, 3, okay? And with each one of those, if you think about, not only, we're talking about the frets, if I think about what they are, their relationship to the key, in the key of G, this would be the 5th, this would be the root, this would be the 3rd. So I know, so what I want you to learn is that the 5th to the 6th is the whole step, the root to the 2nd, or you could call it the 1 to the 2nd, the 1 to the 2 is a whole step. but the 3 to the 4 is a half step, okay? Play that with me. See, there's our half step. Let's keep going. 3rd fret, 5th fret. And again, 3rd fret, 5th fret. And if we add all those notes up, we have G, A, B, C, D, E. And then there's no 7th. And if the jam is just a kind of a G chord, G2, G sus, I don't know if it's a major 7th or a minor 7th. I could go with either F or F sharp. Check it out. I think that first kick drum is missing. Is it missing? Is it? Oh, it is. Okay. There we go. But if I wanted, I could go with a major 7th. It gives it a totally different vibe. Oh, sorry. What would you recommend for a beginner to learn after learning the G scale pentatonic? I'm assuming the G major scale? Or an open position? Or G pentatonic. You said pentatonic, so G major pentatonic. Well, you can learn, what I'm teaching you now could totally be the next thing to learn. Now, if you meant G minor pentatonic, which you could technically use over this G major progression, it would take it very bluesy, okay? So if we look at, again, those triads notes, the G chord, those notes, the 5th, the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the root, and the notes we're adding, we could take that 3rd down a half step and make it a flat 3rd. It sounds like this. It's odd, it's wrong, because you got that B major, or the B natural playing, and you're playing a B flat against it, so it sounds like this. Right? But that's kind of the cornerstone of a blues scale. Like a lot of times when you're playing the blues, in fact, usually when you're playing the blues, you're playing over a G, you're playing over a major chord, but you're playing a minor pentatonic on top of, you're kind of overlaying an incorrect scale to create that blues sound. And I say incorrect, I put it in air quotes because it's not incorrect. If you can make it, if it works, it works. It's like all the people thought that Charlie Parker was hitting all the wrong notes, and now they're hitting all those notes because they were the exact right notes. But usually, if I'm gonna play over such a happy progression like this and go blues, I might do it a little bit more subtly. Like I might take that 2. That, okay, so there's a lot of little things we can do to this, to these suspended notes, okay, 5 to 6 to 5, 1 2 1, 3 4 3, 5 6 5, 1 2 1. Right? I can even turn that into a scale right there, just like. The whole time I'm visualizing this chord. Again, the whole time this is kind of the cage thing. I'm visualizing this shape, which is an E shape, which means every lick that I'm doing over the shape, I can transpose to A. Okay? I could transpose it to C. Or D. That's the beauty of the caged method, is that all the licks that you learn, as long as they don't use open strings, are completely transposable. Piano, you can't do that. You have to learn new shapes for every key. But in guitar, you can take the same shape and use it for all 12 keys. All right? So, Artemis, that thing about you know, the pentatonic scale or the major scale, one thing you want to realize is where's the root in that scale, or where are the roots? There's going to be more than one. And in the G major pentatonic, it's here, here, and here. And so learn the notes up and down the bottom string. That would be the next thing to learn. Memorize your bottom string so that you know if you're playing here, you're playing a B flat major pentatonic. And basically what I'm telling you is you can take one piece of knowledge and turn it into 12 pieces of knowledge by adding another piece of knowledge to it. So you take your pentatonic scale and you take your knowledge of your bottom string, your sixth string, and memorize all the notes on that, and now you've got 12 scales instead of just one scale, if that makes sense. So that's also the next step you could take. But with this, let's take the top string. We're going G, A, G, right? And that sounds great. Right? I'm going to show you some tricks to make it interesting. Now, the blues note was that flat third, or the B flat. I'm going to hint at it. See, I'm kind of not even getting all the way there. I'm taking that A and I'm bending it to there, and it kind of takes you somewhere. And then Dad leaves me. Yeah, I never took a day off being a dad. I had to work all the harder. I really, you know, it's very natural to kind of do that. You can also do it to the sixth. So like, we can actually go up to that B flat, like that. So do that, hammer on the A from the G on the first string, so 3rd fret to the 5th fret. And you know, I'm always loving to give you the note names because I want you to memorize all the notes on the fretboard. And then just sneak that 3rd finger over the fret, like that. That slide player, he does it. He'll actually push down and slide it, you know, like that. But and you could do that also to the 6. So check it out. It sounds great. Now, I don't know, it doesn't really work. It kind of works on the 4, you know, when I think about it, technically, because, here, I'll show you this. That note we're sliding to right there, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to flip you off. That note, right, I'm going up a half step from the 4, so I'm doing like this weird chromatic. It's like, okay, well, that's just weird. That sounds like, you know, Flight of the Bumblebees or something. Hey, Thomas, welcome. Oh, you transpose the G chord. G chord, here's G sharp. Here's A sharp, B flat. B, yeah, just moving it up and down like that. Same thing with the scale. There's G, A flat, or A. So you just move your hand. That's the beauty of transposing on the guitar. You just do the same thing as you move up the fretboard. So the reason that might kind of almost work is because if I were to play a blues scale, that note is in the blues scale. So I'm kind of alluding to the blues scale. I mean, I would just slightly tease that note. It's cool. It actually works. You could also go, you could go down to the, So let me do the 3/4 kind of suspension, play with that a little bit, and then I'll sneak the flat 5 or the sharp 4, and then finish it off with the flat 3. So I'm going to go. It's kind of weird, but it might work. It's weird. I don't know if I would use that, but I guarantee you that little slipping the 2 over a fret and the 6 over, and the 6, when you go to this there, you're kind of implying a dominant sound, like a G7 chord, right? But you can sit on it too. And then, when you do that dominant 7th, you're kind of setting it up that the whole blues scale is going to work at that point. If I had set it up as a F sharp, it's going to be less likely. It's got to be more of a happy major, right? The major scale. There's the major 7th. It's just the 7th note in the scale. So if you count up the scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or F sharp G, it depends. Depends on what kind of scale it is. So, yeah, exactly. Keep it real. You can definitely I can justify almost any note. We did that when we were doing the bluegrass thing. When we were playing bluegrass. You can justify, in the key of G, you can just about justify anything. Even that G sharp, you're like, oh, that shouldn't work. But it's like, or a note that might not normally work by itself works as a passing tone. Like, that E flat, be like, okay, that's a weird note in the key of G major. There's no E flat in the key of G major. And for Artemis, I can type out here's the G major scale, since we're in the key of G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And so give each one of those a number, and you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Or root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And that's what I'm referencing here when I say 5th. 5th is G. The root is G. I'm sorry. The 5th is D. The root is G. The 3rd is B. Then we have D again, which is the 5th, and then G is the root. And we're extending those. We're adding to those notes. We're going from the root to the 2nd. We're going from the 3rd to the 4th. We're going from the 5th to the 6th, and coming up with neighboring tones. Okay, because they're next door. They're neighbors. That I could populate an entire guitar solo with. So let me do this here. I mean, it sounds very Marshall Tuckery, but and again, once I go to that F natural, I'm kind of going, okay, this could be almost a bluesy thing, and then you can get away with, okay. But if I do the majors, if I go. You can still go to the blues, but it just sounds a little weirder than if you already set up the blues with that dominant 7. Now the other thing, if I do that blues scale, if I were to use that blues scale in the context of this just as a simple G major chord right here, I'm going to a 2 and then going to a sus there, okay? So I'm kind of moving around that G triad a little bit. But if I were to play a blues scale, or I mean a minor pentatonic, I might want to add that major third in there. So, because it kind of supports the chord structure, or supports the chord that's being played. Now, it's going to be different when I go to this next section here where we're going to go 1, 6, 4, 5, okay? And I'll explain that in a second. All right. Oh, thank you, Bruce. So if I go, you know, that major third kind of supports the tonality of the progression of the jam track. And the minor third goes against that, but you can resolve that. Just like you can resolve the 4. You can resolve the 4 down to the 3. You can resolve the flat 3 up to the 3. I mean, usually not that slow. Usually I wouldn't do something, I would do more like this. So I'm using that flat 3 as more of a passing tone. And then now we do that, we've got, now we're almost, even though the gain sound screams rock or metal or whatever, it almost kind of has a Texas swing, maybe a blues sound, but kind of a country western vibe, right? Okay, but again, going back to my original premises, I can just take these little triad shapes, and I'm using the E form. This is the E form caged chord. This is the G major bar chord, 3rd fret, and I can just use those. And I can start on the sus, or I can start on the triad tone. Again, I just flipped you off, sorry. Now, but then it gets a little boring, maybe. That's when you can add those little grace notes. It's kind of a cool sounding scale by itself. You're avoiding the 7th. Now, what if I avoided a different note? What if I played the 7th? So I used the 7th, but I avoided, let's avoid the 2nd. What would that sound like? Now, this is going to be very major-y sounding because I'm going to use an F sharp. So and it's kind of a cool sounding scale. It's like I might call it an empty scale or something. It's missing something. I could avoid G. I could play all the notes except G. So in other words, you can take a diatonic scale of 7 notes and just eliminate a random note and see how that sounds over the scale. And it sounds like its own scale. It sounds like a new scale. It's kind of a cheater's way of creating sonics, things that you wouldn't naturally play. Again, this is kind of getting into the kind of the zen of it. I could just say today I'm only going to play the 5th, 3rd, and 1st string. I'm only going to play those 3 strings and see what happens. And it kind of creates those. Do something like that. If I only played those 3 strings, it's going to create. Yeah, and that's eliminating the root. No, I didn't. That's weird, isn't it? It's hard to do. And then I'm avoiding the G. So I'm playing every note in the G major scale except the G. It's pretty weird. But that's kind of what we're doing when we created these triads with the suspensions. We're doing the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, and we're avoiding the 7th, and it's a little bit of a hollowed out kind of major scale in some ways. If we add the G or the F in there, F sharp, now we just got a major scale. So that would just be, you know. It just sounds like a major scale. So eliminating a note can really kind of create more interesting things. And you could vary that. Like you could eliminate the 2nd, then you could go eliminate the 4th, and then you can eliminate the 6th, and then you slowly, you know, add the other notes back in and things like that. Create random sounding melodies. Yeah, so it's actually kind of fun. Now let me take this concept of taking the root, then adding a 2nd, taking the 3rd, adding a 4th, and taking the 5th and adding a 6th up the fretboard, so you can see the different shapes. So we've been using the E form. Let me go to the D form to it. Visualizing this D shape right here. Now I'm seeing the C shape. Now I'm on the A shape. Now I'm in the G shape, which is probably the most natural. I don't know who Michael Loftus is. But again, I'm using the cage method, the chord shapes, spelling out the word caged up my fretboard to find these triads that I can then add the suspensions to, the suspended 2, the suspended 3, or suspended 4, suspended 6th. And that it's a good starting point for a solo that's not too pentatonic, that's not too diatonic. It's kind of halfway in the middle there. It's actually 6 notes instead of 5 or 7. And again, the thing that you can pull from this is go, well, wait, we eliminated the 7. What would it sound like if we took a major scale and eliminated the 6th? And so if I did that, you know, oh, sorry. It's kind of weird. I might do it like And again, just because you have a scale where you're eliminating a note doesn't mean you have to play the scale in that order. You can just play melodic ideas and don't play, what are we not playing? The sixth. So. Awkward to avoid that sixth, but I almost don't miss it. You don't notice it being gone as much as you do if I eliminated the second. Seemed a little bit more like, wait, we're missing a note. If I eliminated the root, definitely felt like we were missing a note. You know what I mean? Like if I totally. Exactly, Sam. It's like this. Yeah, it's a good mental exercise. I think it probably helped stave off Alzheimer's. I should probably do it all day long. So, yeah, and kind of the idea is a lot of times we get into ruts when we're soloing. Especially if we're writing melodies, if we're writing songs, we get into ruts. And so you can do things where you eliminate, hey, what's going on? Dan, what's good to see you? Oh, hey. So it's, now, are you the one that I don't know if you're the one, I think you're a different person than I replied to on my channel the other day, but, I'm going to do a video on, so I've got a series of videos. Now, the thing is my demographics are such that I'm not really catching, they should. I wish that young people would watch this video series I started a while back, The Business of Making Music. It's a playlist you can look up. I think it's, if you go to my channel and then click on playlist, it should be one of the top playlists. I actually had to log out of my account. Actually, it's funny because Google, they always ask me like for, tips, or they ask me for suggestions of how to make the channel better. And one of the things I would love, so when I'm create a video, and one of the questions they ask you is, what playlist do you want to put this in? You click on that and it shows all your playlists. So I've got playlists that are like playlists based on like 70s Pacer games and Indy 500 stuff. And then I've got like home fix-it playlists. And it's like, if I'm uploading a video to share with you people, this sounds derogatory, but I mean it in the kindest way. But I just want my playlist for my channel to show up, the public ones, not the private ones, the ones you set to private, like favorite comedians or whatever, the Rodney Dangerfield playlist. I don't need to see any of those. And it could be 100 playlists, and I'm like, I don't want to scroll through all those looking for, my Cool Tools playlist or my, oh yeah, we didn't talk about my new video. I don't know if I know Holly saw it because she commented. Yeah, 1645, so many songs. Yeah, that's exactly right. Keep it real. That was the next progression I had to. So I haven't added a keyboard though. Oh no, G, sorry. So let me add a keyboard real quick. just in case I'm going to quantize. Now we have the very common 1-6-4-5 progression. I call it kind of the 50s progression. The Beatles saved us from this progression. But all of those ideas still work. Now, when you get to like the 5 chord, which is D, you know, you might want to sit on the D note there, or the C note is kind of cool over the D. Because remember, like if we were to play, everybody take a sip, if we were to play a 5-1 progression in D and G, we have the, oops, right? We have the D to G, totally out of tune. But if I want to make it a little bit more tense to create more push and lean into that 1 chord, I add that C note to create a 7th. And so what you do is you create this tritone between the 3rd and the C, and the F sharp wants to resolve up and the C wants to resolve down. And so when I play that C natural, even though the C natural is not in the music right there, it really wants to go to B when I'm done, when it resolves. Watch. Right? A lot of songs, a lot of pop songs through the years have done that dominant 7th. And I'm not even playing a D7 there. I was just playing a D triad, a very simple D. I could have played D7 there, but I didn't. The other thing you could do is you could play the F natural over that, and it's going to sound bluesy. And that's also creates a whole nother, takes you to another place. But all I'm doing is I'm doing that well, I guess we could call it suspension plus, right? If I go, that's a suspended note plus. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. So Dan, I'm going to call you Dan. So Dan commented on, you know, how he's, you know, it's very frustrating. Being a musician's, you know, it's not for the meek at all. And there's a certain stick-to-itiveness. But I'll tell you, I'm going to do a video, Dan, and you don't have to agree with the video, but I'm going to put it in I haven't done an update to that playlist in a long time. But you inspired a video, so you better watch it. But you already know the premise, and that is basically, don't put your life on hold for your career. Let life happen. If you fall in love for crying out loud. There's nothing. I mean, what percentage of the best songs in the world were written about relationships? I mean, so many great great relationship songs were formulaic. You know, who knows? You know, they were like, oh, let's write a love song. You know, we'll sit down and write a love song. It was not based on experience. And how many songs were based on the pain of losing a relationship? So even on the negative side, you get inspiration. And I know there's a time constraint, but the thing is, if you find somebody, Dan, I would suggest, you know, maybe finding somebody, you know, that has a similar interest as you, of being a musician or an artist or something. My wife and I had a band together when we first got married, and she was a singer when we met, and my initial thinking was that we were going to become a famous band. You know, that was one of the things I thought could happen when we first got married. But she definitely a couple things. One, she helped pay the bills. And in fact, she carried us for years with her working as a teacher, and allowed me to stay in the music thing, keep practicing, getting better, teaching guitar lessons, which I did a lot, and then playing at churches and leading worship at churches, which I did a lot. So it's not like I wasn't working. And then once we had started having kids, you know, it's like kids fit around your lives. You can surround you can base your whole life around your kids. But so many people, if they, you know, couples, if they were campers before they had kids, once they have kids, they're still campers. They're still, you know, going up in the mountains and hiking up in the mountains. It doesn't, you know, the kids become campers, you know, and my kids, you know, all three of my kids took up music in some way, you know, at some level. Only my oldest is actually a professional, but all of them played, you know, either worship bands or rock bands or whatever at some point because they kind of just thought that's what you do because your dad's a musician and your mom's a singer, and so yeah. So the point of I probably have to formulate it. I could probably riff and do it, just make it up as I go, but I probably will want to have maybe a couple bullet points, but I in the midst of all this, in the midst of you know, in the midst of struggling to be a musician and to have a career. And the second thing my wife did, first thing she did was she helped support us. The second thing she did was refuse to let me quit. So the probably exactly 5 times that I wanted to give it all up, she wouldn't let me. And so I feel like, yeah, the old joke, a musician without a girlfriend, homeless. Exactly. That's true. I may have to reference that. You call a guitar player without a girlfriend homeless. And it's funny because it's true, right? All good humor is based in truth. But I wrote a song in the midst of all this, you know, having kids, and every time my wife got pregnant, you know, we're not Jewish, but I said Mazel Tov. She was maybe a little worried, like, oh, what's Tom gonna think? He's gonna be worried about money, which I'm always worried about money. I got that from my dad. I could be a billionaire and I'd still be like, oh, I don't know if we can afford this. But the thing is, I wrote this song called Let Life Happen. I actually wrote a screenplay called Let Life Happen, and actually had some people really like it, but the lyrics are basically, let life happen around your dreams. Spontaneous gardens may not be weeds. Like, a lot of people think, we're pregnant. Oh, it's going to ruin all that. It's like, no, it's a spontaneous garden, and it's not a weed. It's a flower. You know, spontaneous gardens happen too. They don't have to be weeds. And so that's kind of, I don't know if it's a great lyric, but it was the lyric I came up with. So, but yeah, let life happen around your dreams. Spontaneous gardens may not be weeds. I think it was, let life happen. So, what key was it with? I don't know. Let life flow wherever. Probably lower than that, though. I'm sure I didn't do it in that key. That's too high. Let's see. Let life happen around your dreams. Spontaneous gardens may not be weeds. I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of an awkward lyric, but it was, you know, I would almost always write songs that were about my situation, where I was in life. And hey, David, what's going on? Checked in now. I know, and the Chat GPT that you used actually translated the comment perfectly. So that works really, really well. I hope it translates my reply back. I think, Dan, you can also you can ask, I think there's a way that you can ask to translate my videos to, I don't know what language you're speaking. What's your native tongue, Dan? And you're, I barely speak English, so you're kicking butt, okay? Just so you know, you're doing great. But you better make a coffee. Yes, you better make a coffee. Let's see. Yeah, my channel is a drinking game. Gary's not here anymore. Gary was the one that was the guardian of the drinking game rules. I think we got up to like a dozen rules. They probably exist on Discord. Does anybody want to copy and paste the drinking game rules? If I change a guitar, there's some obscure ones, but if I drop a pick, okay, that's a sip. If I mentioned that I played all the guitars on Apex Legends, which I don't think is true anymore. I think that there's a couple composers that Steven has handed off some of the writing to that play guitar, and they've done it themselves. So I don't know that anybody else was hired to do it, but oh no, I didn't know that. That's cool. I didn't know that Van Sant did a Christian record. That could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. It doesn't always, sadly, although it's true of any genre, you know, they're not the best. Christian music's not always the best. Angela has a question. Where's Angela? I missed that. Sorry, Sam. What it means to Gene 7th, particularly when you get the 7th. Okay, so there's technically 3 diatonic scales that are major scales of sort. They contain the root major chord. But there's only, like in the key of G, G major has an F sharp. So G major would be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And that would be G major. But then you could do G mixolydian, which would have, would be G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it has an F instead of a, it has an F instead of a, sorry, I lost my window. There we are. Yeah, it has an F, which you could call a flat 7, because a normal 7 in the key of G, if you say key of G, people are thinking, you know, oops, I gotta get this paper in the way. Okay, that's a major scale, but if you, that's an F sharp in the key of G. If and so that's a 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. But if I flat that, it becomes F, goes from F sharp to F. So F sharp flat is F. I'm not trying to confuse you. But F natural, okay? And a G7, that would create a G7 chord. That is the 5 chord in the key of C. So that wants to go, you know, from here. Okay, but that dominant 7th, that, or flat 7th, so it's called, so G7 is shorthand. Technically, back when I was a kid, I think they literally would write out G-DOM-7, G dominant 7th. I think probably because shorthand back then for G7 was G major 7, so they flipped it. Probably because 7th chords are more often dominant 7th chords, but that, I don't know if that's true or not. I have seen notation G7 with a slash through the 7 as being G major 7, and then G, just a regular 7, as being G dominant 7th. So the difference being, here's G major 7 is this, and G dominant 7th is this. See, G major 7th is a very pretty, happy, makes makes me think of Little River Band, right? And then G7 is more of a dominant kind of, you know, blues, Chicago blues or whatever. And so that's what the seventh is referred to. You can be either the major seventh or the flat seventh, it can be. And if I were just to say play the seventh in the key of G, I would be saying play F sharp. But if I say play the flat seventh in the key of G, it would be F natural. And so every key could have a flat seventh. And so that flat seventh though creates a really nice, even though in this progression, the 1, 6, 4, 5 progression, I've got a D major chord which has an F sharp in it, which really kind of tells you we're in the key of G major. But I can go to that flat seventh, and it still works because the tonal center is the key of G, and so we're just setting up more of a blues vibe. And I even use the flat 3, which would be B flat. So you take the 3 naturally occurring in the key of G, which is a B note. And if I say play the flat 3, that would be B flat. But usually if I'm going to play the B flat over a G chord, over a G major chord, I'm going to start to sneak it to the B. I may not get all the way to B, okay? That's the beauty of what I like about oud, is I can play all those middle notes. I might not get all the way to there. If I wanted to go to the B, I might hammer on it, right? You know, and it kind of is interesting sounding. I mean, I don't know that I like it, but it's not wrong. And so all I was doing was I was hammering on that major third with the flat third. What would happen with what you were just doing, but sort of playing the lead in a sort of 3/4 rhythm with the same track? Well, I could do triplets. 3/4 wouldn't. I'm not really thinking even in 4/4. I'm just kind of playing. But if you're thinking like a triplet feel, I would naturally do that a lot of times, especially if I'm doing a blues note. So for example, so a triplet would be, so it'd be like, so the 16th notes would be, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, be like oh, I touch bass. That's right. There we go. Touch bass, change guitars, reverse tone in the third person. Forget my tuning. That's right. Use hands for. Yeah, the touching face thing was a COVID thing, right? You're not supposed to touch your face. So that's 16th notes. Triplet. And I would naturally go to a triplet feel just as a way to change things up. I might not even think that, and not even realize I'm doing it. But if I'm just, yeah, so I think that's what you're referring to as far as playing in 3 over the 4. Playing 3 over 4 might be a better way to say that rather than playing 3/4. I could change the progression to be a 3/4 progression, but right now the progression's in 4/4 because the chords are changing every 4 beats. Oh, first time here. Oh, you've been subscribed for a while. Well, that's not, well. Welcome, David. I try to be here every Monday. I do have to take off a little bit. I got to take my wife to the I almost said hospital. I have to take my wife to the airport, and you know it's LAX. Looking forward to it. But yeah. So back to. My music compositions are stunning. Well, I don't know. You've heard my music compositions, but you probably didn't realize it. I mean, I've got music kind of all over the place. I mean, maybe you've heard my music. You're hearing my playing right now, and I am. Technically, you're right. When you're improvising, you're composing on the fly. That's exactly what improvisation is. You're just kind of writing as you go, and that's definitely, you know, it starts with scales, it starts with shapes, places, things like that. But ultimately, what you have to say something. You can't just play scales. Nobody wants to listen to solos that just are scales. And to be honest, I rarely get asked to solo. Maybe because I'm not the greatest soloist, but also because it's just not very common in music anymore. Now, on some games, I did work on the last Star Wars video game. I worked for the composers that created the Cantina music, and so I played on. I think I played on 5 or 6 Cantina songs, and it was hard stuff. And at one point, he had written such complex soloing on the. I was playing on the Greek bouzouki right there over my shoulder. That I just said, "Hey, can I just improvise this? Because playing the notes you wrote they're just not." A lot of times, keyboard players will write intervals that are not very natural on the guitar. The nice thing about the Greek bouzouki is it's basically the top 4 strings of a guitar tuned down a whole step. So all your licks, you know, on the top 4 strings all work. So I could quickly get to a place where I was improvising over the jam thing, because that's what it felt like he wanted anyway. I think if I remember correctly, I had to slow the track down and then play over it and then speed it back up. But before I did that, I made sure it was okay. But they were writing like triplet 16ths at 155 or something. It was like, holy cow, I was like dying. So I slowed it down to 120. I tried to slow it down to 100, but I could hear it a little too much, like it was slowed down when I sped it back up. So yeah. So just tuning in. Very interesting so far. Oh, good, Julian. I'm glad. Yeah. Bob got it. Touches thy face. Refer to thyself in the third person. Exchange thine guitar. Forgettest thine tunings. Quotest thy. Oh, if I do air quotes. Oh, air quotes is one of them. So if I do air quotes, we all take a sip. Yeah, if you're doing bourbon, you're going to get in trouble. But the touch face one was a COVID one. I kind of stand firmly now that I believe COVID was created by church ladies because it was like quickly all these admonitions came down. Don't pick your nose. Don't touch your face. Don't fart. Those were all spreading COVID. And I'm like, those are all things that church ladies tell you not to do in church when you're sitting there bored out of your gourd, in church service. Don't touch your face. Don't fidget, So I think COVID was just a ruse to get us to stop farting and picking our nose. Is my guess. And it didn't work. Don't touch your ear. I can touch my ear, I think, but that would be Carol Burnett saying hi to her grandmother. Oh, your first time too? Well, Cloud-Based, glad to have you here, man. I really appreciate it. Loftus, I don't know. Okay, I'm Googling Michael Loftus right now. Am I gonna be like, oh my gosh, I don't look anything like him, or oh my god, he's ugly, or is he Loftus? Oh, comedian. Okay. Oh, I can see it a little bit. Yeah, I can see it a little bit. Yeah. My new glasses are a little bit like that now too. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I don't know them. I'm going to have to check them out. We might be brothers from another mother. We got a good turnout here. It's good to see you all. I got to get rid of this screen here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, air quotes talk about a band I had in high school. I forgot that one. Claims he plays all the guitars on Apex Legends. Leaves the room. Yeah, if I leave the room. If I say there will be no quiz on this, that's a sip. If I drop my pick, that's 2 sips. Okay. If I change glasses, did I actually? I guess I did used to have glasses for my computer, but I don't have those anymore. They're just out of date, so they don't work. These work fine on the computer now. So, I mean, it's still, I need to increase the size of fonts and things like that. Okay, so I did two progressions here. One was just like G chord, little sus kind of thing, but very simple G chord. And then the other one was a 1 6 4 5 progression. Now somebody's going, oh, what is a 1 6 4 5 progression? Okay, again, let's look at the G major scale. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And I've talked about this in the past. Chord theory, chord harmony, yeah, chord theory. So if you look at those 7 notes that are in the G major scale, that you can give each one of them a number. 1, 2, G is 1, A is 2, B is 3, C is 4, D is 5, E is 6, F sharp is 7. We were talking about the 7s, and G is 1. All right, we can make chords on those. So if I take the D chord and skip every other note and go G, B, D, I just made a G major chord. If I go to the 6th note, E, and start there and do the same thing, that's an E minor chord. So the 6th chord is minor in every key. And then if I go to C, which is the 4th, and I do every other note in the key of G, that creates a C major scale, or C major triad. And so the 4 chord, C, 1, 2, G, A, B, G, A, B, C, the 4 chord is major. And if I go to D, the next one, that's also major, okay? D, F sharp, A is major. So you can hear that. The E is minor, major, minor, major. So one way I could technically write the 1 6 4 5 progression is I could use Roman numerals. 1, capital I, and I could go small case 6 in Roman numerals, large case and large case, like this. That would be one way to notate the 1 6 4 5 progression. I'm sorry, yeah, 1 6 4 5. It's like the super duper common. What was it? What was it? Not chopsticks, but what's the other one? I can't remember, but yeah, it's a very, very common chord progression. Well, I was soloing using basically the same methodology over just the G chord jam as I did over the G, because it's very G. It's also very G, and even though only one of the 4 chords is G, only 25% of the track is G, I can still play a G. Now I can play over each individual chord, and I might, especially if you were sitting on them longer, but they're going by pretty fast, so you want to kind of have a plan of just playing. That would be if I was more playing over each individual chord. And I'm still going to pick, I'm not going to necessarily just play triad tones. Right away, I went to the 9th or the 2nd of the E minor chord, because it's a pretty, anytime you have an E minor, or anytime you have a minor chord, that 2nd is just, now you can't always use it. I can tell you about that, but the 2nd works on the 6th chord, so no problem. So it's like, so basically what I did there was I played G. I played So I went B, A, G, and I went right to that F sharp. Right away, I'm thinking like a composer. I'm soloing in an interesting way, and not just, I could just go triads, but I went right to that second over the E minor, which created kind of a haunting sound. It's like, whoa, what was that? And then I did the same thing over the C chord. I went 3, 2, 1, and I went back to that F sharp. And why did I go to the F sharp? Well, because now that note is an inside note. When it, over the E minor chord, it was a kind of an outside note, right? But over the D chord, it's an inside note. So this, you hear the same note twice in 4 bars, and the first time you hear it, it sounds outside. The second time you hear it, it sounds inside. So check it out. I'll do that same. I just made it up just then, but it was freaking brilliant. So, yeah, so it just was a thing that it occurred to me on the fly of wait. But if I wanted to just play super inside on all those, I could just play triads over them. It'd be kind of boring. I mean, I see a lot of shredders do that, where they just play sweeps over each of the chords. It goes to C chord, they're like, go to D chord, go to G chord. Anyway, I'm not a shredder. But so that, but the way I played over the first, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bracket 8 bars. Okay, so it's gonna be 4 bars of G chord and then another bar of G chord, and then it's gonna go to the 1/6 thing. So right there, it was like basically 5 bars of G, and then it went to the E minor, C, D. But so I might make changes to what I play when it gets to those chords, because it lets everyone in the audience know that I know that the chord changed. But if I just want to play G all the way through there, I can totally play G licks all the way through. Almost can't help kind of making references to chord tones as the chords change, and that you'll probably find yourself naturally doing that too as you just start kind of flipping through this. So, what time do you need? Oh, I'm good. We're fine. She would let me know. I'm gonna be I'll start checking the traffic here in a minute. I don't want to head down too soon because I don't want to get stuck in the morning rush hour. Her flight's pretty late, but she wants to get there early. And I'm always fine with that. She's in a hurry to leave me. Yeah, it's again, if you're just joining us, the kind of the methodology that I use for soloing in general but at least in kind of a rock or one key context, is I'm using the caged method, which is just a way to visualize the fretboard in the 5 main chord shapes. So in the key of G, I'm visualizing an E form, G here, a D form, G here, a C form, G chord here, and an A form. It looks like an A chord, but it's a G chord. This looks like a G chord, and it is a G chord. This looks like a C chord, but it's a G chord. This looks like a D chord, but it's a G chord. And this looks like an E, but it's G. And so we've been taking those notes, and with every one of those shapes, we have triads. And then if we have a triad, we have 1, 3, 5, we can add the 2, 4, and 6. And that sounds like this. So again, if you just joined us, we're visualizing this bar chord here, okay? G bar chord. I'm going to go to the 5th fret on the 5th string, and I'm going to go with my first finger. We're going to use our first finger on the low note every time. And we're going to hammer on the 7th fret. And that's a 5, 6, 5 suspension. And then we have the root here. We're going to do the exact same thing. It's a root or 1, 2 suspension. And then we're going to go down 1 fret and onto the 3rd string, and we're at the 4th fret, and we're going to go 1 fret up. And that's a 3, 4 suspension. So in a major key, the 3 and the 4 are a half step apart. And then we're going to go back here, and we got another D, which is the 5th, and so we're going to have another 5, 6, and then go up another one and have a. And so I can just play. But I might sit on them. I might do a little neighboring tone. And another thing that I do, and I think I got it from, I think I may have gotten it from David Sanborn, one of my favorite sax players. And he would do this thing where he'd be like, did you catch that? So I did did a 5, 6, slid up to the 7th flat 7. We already talked about that. That's not the thing I'm asking you to catch. And I pulled off to the 5. So I went 5, 6, flat 7, 5, or 5, 6, flat 7, 6, 5. And then I kind of tapped the 6th. And then took my finger off. I didn't sit there. I didn't go. I just went like that. Check it out. I don't know why it works. It's just a natural thing to do, and I hear a lot of blues players do that, and I hear a lot. It's a ghost note, definitely, and I hear a lot of sax players do that too when they're soloing. So it's just, you don't want to overuse that. Can you fly her in with a private helicopter to LAX? Yes, I can. I can, and I have. No, I haven't. No, I haven't. I could fly her in on a private helicopter. I have a friend that actually flies helicopters. He teaches it now. I've told this story. Aldo Bentavegna. He's a very good drummer, a jazz drummer. And it's funny because he was dyslexic, and he went to a very good, very, very good school district. But they put him in the remedial classes. All the way growing up, and it just he thought he was a moron. He was like, not. He's a really smart guy, but dyslexia when we were young was like one of those things. It's like, wait, what? Oh, you're stupid. So, but he ended up. He didn't go to college, but he got into very good drummer. I think he may have gone to school for drumming now that I think about it. But very good drummer, jazz drummer. Did a lot of gigs with him. I mean, a lot of gigs back in the day with him. And when I was trying to play jazz, and mostly just for food, to be honest. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I hope the next live chat is a golden YouTube on the wall. Oh, I know, right? Nah, it's not going to happen. To get to 1 million, Zane, I don't know. That's tough. I mean, I got to 100,000 during COVID, and yeah, I don't really see. I'm at 138, maybe 139, something like that. It's almost 140. But I'll get to 200, but 1 million, boy, I don't see it. I don't think I'll live long enough. So. But Aldo, he got into remote control, like RC flat cars and planes, and then he bought an RC helicopter. Now everybody has drones, and everybody can fly a drone without a whole lot of problem. They're pretty easy to fly. But RC helicopters in the day, the original RC helicopters, you're actually controlling it like a helicopter. And somebody told him, that was a helicopter pilot, he said, if you can fly RC helicopters, you can fly a helicopter. He's like, wait, what? He goes, the principles that you need to know, the math that you need to know to be able to fly an RC helicopter, I'm not talking about a drone, I'm talking about RC helicopter, remote control helicopter, were the same that he needed to master to be a helicopter pilot. So he went, well, interesting. So he went and he studied helicopter, and then he ended up becoming, so he learned to fly helicopters, I think at Van Nuys Airport. And then he became a helicopter pilot for one of the, the news show, the radio or TV traffic in LA, because that's a big thing. They have traffic helicopters up there. You'll be in a traffic jam and you'll hear the helicopters above you, and then you turn on the radio and you can hear why you're in a traffic jam. Usually it's just because everybody else is trying to go to the same place you're trying to go. Drone the A string. Yeah, that's a good thing. Then you can practice. Yeah, I mean, that's how oud is kind of played. I'll show you that in a second. But the, so he got in. So he got into flying helicopters professionally, and he teaches it and stuff like that. And there was a helicopter crash of a in the Hollywood Hills of a news copter. I think 2 people were killed. The 2 people on the helicopter were killed. And so the LA Times wanted to do a story on that, and they wanted to interview Aldo. And so the reporter was up there in the helicopter with him, and he was talking about, oh yeah, no, we practice stalled landings and stuff. And so he says you can actually glide a helicopter if the engine stops. It's not, you're not much gliding, but you get a little bit of lift. And if you can get enough lift right before you hit, you can, well, believe it or not, when he was taking her up, and they weren't very high up at all, the engine stalled with this reporter. And he had to do the very landing he had described to her and try to get some lift out of the locked blades. And he said the skids were flat. They hit so hard. And he killed his back. He's had back problems ever since. Yeah. Oh, I think you told me that. That sounds familiar, Holly. I think we probably, because I told this story before. But yeah, it was just coincidental. Well, he wasn't trying to show off or anything. He wouldn't do anything like that. Well, they do practice those kind of landings. They do practice locking. That's part of, most of what you do when you're a professional pilot is prepare for the worst case scenario. And so, and I don't know if Aldo still flies. I think he still teaches. I mean, he didn't stop flying. It's kind of how he paid the bills. Drumming is just kind of a secondary thing, which is kind of the case for a lot of people. Hey, Max, good to see you. You're late. Yep. Yeah, so David, you mentioned about droning the A string. I feel like that's kind of why the oud is tuned the way it is. Now, my oud is not tuned right, and I'm going to go ahead and put my skirt on here. This helps the oud from slipping, and it's anti-rug slip pad. So now my oud is tuned. I actually tuned my low string to E, so I'm going to change that. Okay. So I think a lot of oud players, or a lot of the oud thing is because it's fretless. Hey, Rachel Hardy, what? What are you doing? I know, it's beautiful. I love the oud. And the crazy thing is, like, they have scales that are not diatonic scales, like a maqam. One of the most common maqams is, I don't know the names of them. They're all Arabic, and I can't pronounce them, so I don't want to butcher them. That note is in between E flat and E. And if the first time I was practicing that, I was like, oh my gosh, oh, that's so out of tune. You know, I wanted to go. And 100% of the time I work for composers playing this instrument, they don't want those scales. They want diatonic scales. So they would want like a D natural minor. Or maybe D Phrygian, which is a great sounding. Hey, everybody subscribe to Rachel's channel. I think you'll really dig her. She does great covers. She's an amazing composer. So yeah, that's kind of cool. The Phrygian sounds really cool on the oud. But again, like I said, they're kind of hitting that. So the way the oud's tuned is D, G, A, or this is the Egyptian tuning, but D, G, A. So if you think about it, I've got the 1, 4, 5, so I can do 1, and then go to the 4 chord. Back to the 1. There's that weird note. And then I go to the 5 chord. Technically, this is an oud pick, very odd. I'm trying to get used to it. To me, it sounds better. It sounds more oud-like. I just did some oud playing yesterday on something, and it definitely has that more nasally kind of sound than a real. And I'm, you know, to be able to do the fast stuff, I can. Definitely not going to be perfect. You can see I even have the Rachel, this is for Austin. This was like, he was having me play up here. He was killing me on this one thing. And wow, this is a long time ago. But the stickers remain. They can still see the markings of the other stickers. But he was making me play some crazy stuff on it. It turned out phenomenal. And I asked him later, I said, did you like time correct it and pitch correct it? And he said, no, he didn't. He used it. It just sounded amazing, and it was crazy. And I was like, really cool lines, but played on oud and on lute. Which actually, if I'm given the choice, played oud or lute, lute or oud, I'd rather play oud. For one thing, my oud is 6 courses. I made the mistake of getting an 8-course lute, and I think if I bought another lute, I'd just get a 4. I thought that because lutes generally are tuned down to G, I would miss having the E and potentially D. So I got a lute that was 8 courses, and I could have a standard kind of G-tuned G standard lute, but with a low like F and a low E, or a low E and a low D or something. But the neck is so much wider. Like playing an A minor chord feels weird, and playing an E major chord feels weird. You know, all the standard chord shapes just felt really weird. So if I got another lute, I would definitely get a 6 course and just be like, oh, I can't go below G, or I could tune it to E standard even if I wanted to. The strings might be a little pitchy. But the thing I love about lute is, and it's kind of the same thing about oud, but the thing I like about lute is having the double course for the nylon strings. That, you know, having two strings tuned to the same note, kind of like a charango is that way. I have an 8-string, excuse me, tickle, just a tickle. I'm not sick. I have an 8-string ukulele I really like that I'll use if somebody wants charango. A lot of times I'll play that instead. I'll let them know. I generally let them know if I'm subbing an instrument. Yeah, thank you, Holly, for that. Yes, the Dan, yeah, I've got one. I don't know. I call it a. Well, I've got a couple. I've got a tumbie, and I got a gobachon. Is that the gobachon? Actually, I have a little gobachon. I actually wouldn't mind getting like a big one. I think that would be kind of cool. Dan, hold on. Okay, everybody take a sip because I'm leaving the room. Yeah, so I don't know if this would. It's a string mounted to a drum head, and then it's kind of like bamboo, so you just squeeze it and it changes. Take 2 sips because I'm changing instruments. But this is a gobachon, and I'm probably totally butchering the pronunciation. There's also a tubi up there. That one is also 1 string. So everybody take another sip because I'm changing instruments again. If I can reach it. There we go. And this, this is almost impossible to play and tune. I think I paid $20 for this. So I knew that, what I was getting when I bought it. Let's see. That's it. But like this, it's just got this weird little triangle piece of foam that is the bridge, and the string goes through it, and it just starts moving. But Missy Elliott made it famous. Missy Elliott she took a sample of a tumbi and used it on probably her biggest hit. So, that was kind of pseudo the riff that's on that song. But yeah, I've got a few Indian instruments just because I've used the tubi on something. I think I've used both those on something. I'm sure of it. Because they're super cheap. I mean, I think $20-$30 on Amazon or something. But they make giant gobachons that are like, that might be fun to have, but I don't know where I'd keep it. But I don't know how big they get, but I've seen bigger ones. Like mine is like the violin version. It's the smallest. There probably is a viola version, a cello, and Holly, I need to get. I mean, I'm not Holly. Rachel, I need to get. I don't technically. We have a very similar Irish bouzouki, and I think you tune your high D string up to E sometimes, and I have, but it makes me nervous because they're really pretty. It's pretty tight, but it basically ends up being a bass mandolin, and I need to get a mandola and a mandocello. I only have a mandolin. I have a 12-string mandolin, which gives me a lower range. It goes to E, but not much lower than a regular mandolin. So I would like to get a mandola, which is tuned like a viola, and a mandocello, which is tuned like a cello. And then the bass mandolin is not tuned like a bass, but it's tuned like a mandolin down an octave. Or I think that's called an octave mandolin, right? Have you done the oud in 6 months? Was it recorded in Irish Museum? I've had the oud for, gosh, it was one of the first non-guitar instruments I got. It was 2005, so I've had it 20 years. I got it to do a game called Empire Earth 2. So see, that probably, I should have done that. I should have gotten an octave mandolin and tuned it like an Irish bouzouki. Because that E string just feels like it's going to break if I tune it up. I don't know. Oh, Vietnam. Oh, you're from Vietnam. Why did I think you were from India? Sorry. I'll have to check it out. It has only one string, but it features a tension adjusting rod to change the pitch of the sound. Kind of like what I was just doing with the Gobushan. Yeah, I knew you were from Vietnam. My brain just went to India for some reason. So, yeah, your English is far better than my Vietnamese, Dan. It's like, I have a friend. I've told this joke before, but there are a lot of new people here. I have a friend, David Lavray, great bass player from Paris, right? And he said, "What do you call someone who speaks 2 languages?" And I said, "Bilingual." And he said, "What do you call someone who speaks 3 languages?" And I said, "I don't know, trilingual." And he goes, "Well, what do you call someone who speaks 1 language?" And I went, "Monolingual?" And he said, "No, American." And I was like, and then you get defensive, and I'm like, yeah, but I can drive 4,000 miles and still speak American. In France, you can't drive 400 miles and you have to speak German or Dutch or whatever, so Spanish. But anyway, but I speak American. So. Yeah, Rachel, I'm bummed that I missed you at GDC. If I go again, if Austin asks me next year, I don't know if that'll happen. We'll see. This year he had a lot of guitar stuff, so he needed me. But I don't know. It depends on the playlist and if they even ask him to do it again. I think they will. I mean, I think it's hugely popular. If I end up going again, I will stay longer because initially I just was like. I looked at the prices of the hotels, and I was staying across the street at the same hotel Austin was, and it was like $1,100 a night or something. And then I found on the GDC website I could get it for half that, so I ended up getting it for $500. But I was like, yeah, I'm not getting paid very much money, so maybe I'll just do one night there and come right back. And I didn't realize what a big deal it was, and I ran into so many. Thank you, Holly, for all the paperwork. Yeah, it's crazy during GDC. It's kind of crazy. The same thing that happens at the NAMM show in Anaheim. Like if you want to stay in one of those hotels adjacent to the NAMM show, it's just ridiculous. Maybe if you go to NAMM and book through them, because what happens, GDC like held a lot of rooms, and that drives the price up. So that happens with every convention in every city, is if the convention. The purpose for the convention, whoever's hosting the convention, if they block book rooms, and that's, I think, what GDC was doing, which kind of drove the price up. So if you went through the GDC website, you were able to get a better deal because they were holding rooms. And I booked my room, Rachel, before I'd actually gotten my badge, so I didn't have that. But then when I got the badge and saw it was $2,500 badge, and I was just getting it for free, I'm like, oh, shoot, I should be spending more time up there and get the most of it. I mean, I didn't go to... Because, see, Rachel, as soon as I got there, I had a suitcase and a guitar because I couldn't check into my hotel. I got there at like 9:30. So I'm going to check in my hotel until afternoon. So I'm kind of walking around with that, and I'm like, I don't want to walk around with a suitcase. So I went and dropped it off at the green room and then walked around a little bit, but then I was kind of texting with Austin and Dallas and realizing they're going to be there soon, and I want to be there if they need help setting up, which, of course, then... I got there and I couldn't help because it was union and then I'm not allowed to help. And it's like, oh, I forget that stupid stuff. I'm like, yeah, well, let's get this show on the road. But everything went off without a hitch. And you were amazed that I'd never played really technically with an orchestra live. I mean, I did in college a couple times, but I was like the feature for that piece. So I was kind of with an amp and standing in front and everything, and it was very disorienting. And then I've done orchestras and recording sessions, but that's different. They can hit Command Z and do it again if you mess up big time. Usually I discourage that just because guitar is something you want to spend time on. And I've done orchestra sessions where I play and then they listen back to my tracks that I did, and I played everything fine, but they're like, oh, you know what? We really wanted distortion on your baritone here. Oh, and we really wanted you to play nylon, not steel string here. And, so you end up replacing everything. I said, just bring me in after you've done the orchestra, and then I'll come in and do everything. And that's usually how it works. Yes. Yeah, I would imagine that's true in Vietnam. Yep. Yep. It's funny. I've got a Thai pin, and that thing has, Rachel, you'd probably dig it. Dulcimer is a major scale with a dominant seventh in there, but a Thai pin is a minor scale, so it allows you to play Phrygian and Lydian, and I don't know if it lets you play. No, I'm sorry, Phrygian, natural minor, and maybe Dorian. I mean, I've got it right here. Everybody, take a sip. And this is from Thailand, and the headstock, fortunately unscrews. It was a giant dragon, freaky, kind of give me nightmare kind of thing. So I took it up. Yeah, I can do Dorian. So natural minor or Phrygian or Lydian. I mean Dorian. Sorry, I said Phrygian and Dorian. Yeah, and so Austin bought me this, actually. Austin Winfrey bought this because he scored a TV show called Thai Cave Rescue on Netflix. I think, Rachel, did you work on that at all? Seems like he enlisted a lot of people to help write for it. And he asked me if I had one, and I said no, and he goes, well, go buy one and I'll pay you for it. And so I bought one. It's like a couple $100. And we use it a lot in the thing. And it's... I don't know that it's a particularly old instrument. I really didn't find anything that I would consider traditional Thai. Most of the players I saw on YouTube were playing it like they were doing Jimi Hendrix stuff on it, and playing rock and whatever on it. It wasn't particularly. So anyway, yeah. So you didn't work on it, okay? Yeah. Well, the thing is, you put a capo on it, and you can play major. So I didn't show you that, but if I put a capo at the 3rd fret, now it's, I think, technically that was EBD, EBE, so it was just fifths, I'm sorry, power chord. But if I capoed at the 3rd fret, now I'd be G, D, and I could play major all. So it'd actually literally play like a major, like an Appalachian dulcimer at that point. So it's a fun instrument to have. I mean, I love having all these different instruments. I'm not legit on any of them, obviously, but if you need that tone and you just need a simple melody played, I'm your man. If you need some rhythm on it, totally can do it. And that's the same thing, if you're doing a score that needs 20 different instruments, you can't afford to have 20 different musicians necessarily for just minor parts. So that's where I kind of come in, and I can kind of fill those gaps. But I think with Rachel, I just did some stuff on the Irish bouzouki. And then you bought an Irish bouzouki, so now you're not calling me anymore. I don't know, you may have had that beforehand, but I think I saw you play it on one of your, you're getting good on guitar. Most composers I know can play a little bit of guitar, and so I don't usually get called to play a lot of easy stuff. When people send me guitar stuff, Zaretti, he sent me the most insane electric banjo stuff. It was tuned like a guitar, so I could play like a guitar, but it was freaking insanely complex and difficult. So that was Jesse Zaretti. I don't know if you know Jesse at all, but he was another person I missed at GDC. He was there the whole week, and I just didn't run into enough people. But one of the nice things about, oh, that's right, your game got paused. That's right. Yeah, the business expanded so much during, expanded so much during COVID, the whole business of the gaming business, and then it had to do a massive contraction. Otherwise, they would have had to go bankrupt. A lot of the places were going to, basically, they're looking at the numbers and they're going, yeah, we can't keep this up. So, all the more reason to have multiple skills, so, I mean, being self-employed is brutal. I saw your video, Rachel, on the weather. I grew up in Indiana. I mean, it's not Canada. I know you're in Canada's brutal cold, particularly certain parts of Canada. But the oh yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I would love to see those. Can you release them? Are they yours? Or, I mean, did they revert back to you? I know. I tell you, Rachel, you got to move to LA. I know it's just so stinking expensive here. It's just brutal. I feel like rents are going down in LA. My son manages the building that I used to manage, and the pressure on rents is downward at this point. I don't know how far down rents will go, but the problem is when you're renting, you can't guarantee that you don't. Nice thing about a mortgage is fixed rate mortgage. That is, that your payment's going to be the same for the next 30 years. So that's nice. I remember when my mom bought her house in 1971, and her payment was a house payment, her monthly payment. But when she paid it off in 2001, 30 years later, that payment that was $300, it seemed like a lot in 71, was not even a typical car payment in 2001. So that's kind of crazy to think that my mortgage payment in 30 years is going to feel like a car payment. it's called inflation, and it always happens. If there's, is there a software that will score guitar if I play? I'm not sure what that means. There are definitely guitar samplers that you can write. You can also, there are definitely like composing softwares that will write melodies and things like that. But it's derivative at best, and it's chaotic at worst. It's not really. Dennis, what's going on? You're finally showing up. Oh, dang it. You're only allowed to show on password protected. That's just ridiculous. Rachel, I mean, I don't know if it's any use to you, but you could check out my playlist. I was just talking to Dan, the guy from Vietnam. I'm going to actually do a video. And this pertains to you, but it pertains to everybody. It's like, you've got a dream. I have a dream, or had a dream. It's been beaten out of me. But I want to do a video for the Business of Making Music playlist, which I think is about 20 videos maybe. I have titles for 70 different videos on that playlist, but they were just getting a couple hundred views, so I was like, okay, it's not really worth my time. I think most of them I did kind of remote. I would go somewhere. It was like the only videos that I did that way, where I would take my phone and just record it somewhere. I went to basically what's the Ritz-Carlton in Pasadena, and I did a video that Dan commented on, the guy from Vietnam commented on, but it was about living below your means. That allows you to stay in the game. I know people that got big publishing deals and they went out and bought a Bentley, and it's like 2 years later they're selling the Bentley because they haven't gotten another head. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything like that exists, Bruce. So yeah, David, I'm not sure what that exactly. But I use Logic, and it doesn't compose for me, or it doesn't take one thing. I can have like I could do I wouldn't call it composing, but there's like you can have a preset on here, like on keyboards. No, piano. Where's piano? Where's piano? Oh, there it is. Piano was in strings, so I hit a chord. And it adds the strings in there, but they're not really doing anything. I do have, like, let's see, Logic does have something like this where I can play arpeggiator. Synth Basics, no. Is it under arpeggiator? I thought it was arpeggiator. Synth layers? No. That's basically just what a sequencer did back in the 70s, to be honest. There's one though that does. Is it under strings? Section instruments. I don't think they got rid. Well, I haven't updated in a long time, so I doubt that it's cinematic. No. Orchestral strings. There was one that maybe it was. There's definitely some softwares that will, like, I'm sure Rachel has piano colors, which is kind of cool. I like that. Generally, if I'm going to use some software like that, I will definitely make many, like Mallet Flex is a good one. I will make many adjustments. So I could just play like an A minor chord. Oh, wait, that's not. No, I want. There we go. And so the computer's doing most of the work. I'm just hitting a chord. I can even hit one note. I can change the sequence to be a different one. And I will use that sometimes for a pad on a TV show, but I will add to it. And I will make... Yeah, go to sleep. Dan, go to sleep. You got to work. All right. Yeah, so anyway, all of that to say, I got to get going. Speaking of... Oh man, we got 34 people. Oh, this is awesome. I can't believe how many people we have today. Normally we have in the mid-20s, so it's good. It's good. This is probably kind of an Austin bump, and it could also be a Paul David's bump. I know we've gotten some new subscribers from Paul David's. So yeah, thanks for joining us. I'll see you next Monday, Lord willing. And Rachel, I'm sure I'll talk to you on Instagram. Yeah. And Dan, go to bed. I will try to do that video this week and post it. It should be fairly easy. I probably will just hold my phone or mount my phone. I got to find some place to go. I'm trying to think of where I want to go to do this. So I'm going to go to church and do it. Go outside my church or something like that. It'd be kind of fun. Yeah, it was a fun stream, Rachel. Thanks for joining us. Sorry to point you out so much. I hope you don't mind. And definitely subscribe to Rachel's channel. She's got an amazing voice, and she does really fun covers. She's got some videos that have millions of streams. So she's actually, and I think you have like 300,000 subscribers or something like that, right? You're going to get to the million. I'm not going to get to a million. I'm not going to get the gold one. I'm the silver I'm fine with. I'm just not, I don't work hard enough on my YouTube channel to justify getting a million. I would feel bad for all the YouTubers that work much harder than I do. Yeah, thank you, Joseph. Bruce, see you. Thank you so much for all your help. I will see you guys soon. God bless you. Bye-bye.